You're watching Sky News. Gareth Barlow with you. Events are taking place in Israel as it's the anniversary of the October 7th attacks. Many remembering that hostages that have still not been returned to Israel, and it takes priority, of course, in Donald Trump's peace plan. Well, joining us now is Maoz Inon, an Israeli peace activist who lost both of his parents in the HAMAS attack 2 years ago. Good to have you with us. I appreciate you doing so. Two years on, how are you doing?
I'm very sad. First, thank you for having me on your show. I'm very sad. I just had a webinar with my siblings, nephew and niece, and it's 2 devastating years. Not, of course, what happened to our parents, but the unfolding war and destruction that is happening now in Gaza. Some say it's in our name, which of course we refuse very much to this war. So it's a very, very sad 2 years.
You referenced there your nephew and niece. These kind of events for adults to be able to process is of course hard and tragic enough, but how about the young people in your lives? How do you go about working through this with them?
We try to model healing, to model reconciliation, to model how we can rise and even grow from this tragedy. And now we are working very hard to create a different reality for them to grow up within, a reality of reconciliation, of equality, of justice. And we model it by partnering with Palestinians, by acting and just working very hard to make our beloved parents that there will be a sacrifice of peace and not victims of war. And it's not easy. It's very difficult.
How important are those partnerships that you referenced there with Palestinians, and what have they delivered so far?
They are extremely important and powerful. Basically, that's what gives me the reason to rise every morning, to wake up every morning and leave my bedroom, knowing that there are amazing Palestinian peacemakers, brothers and sisters that envision exactly the same future as me and my siblings do. And we are working day and night to create hope in time of despair, in time of darkness, to prove that Israelis and Palestinians can work together to envision a different reality and working to make this vision into our life. So we're doing many events, if it's in the West Bank, if it's in Israel, if it's abroad, and we call it It's Time Coalition, and it's growing, it's gaining momentum. It's very powerful, and it's part of my personal healing and recovery.
There are voices, significant parts of the Israeli population who would look to pursue a very different reality to the one that you're doing so. And there are people who have criticised the government of Benjamin Netanyahu and some of the ministers in his government for what they say and what they would like to see. How challenging is it to try and pursue your dream of peace and reconciliation and togetherness, I think is the word that strikes me, when there are people, very loud voices that try and push a completely different narrative?
Yes, you are totally right, and it's very challenging and very difficult. And basically, both Israelis and Palestinians, we are trapped. We are trapped within a cycle of violence, of revenge, hate and fear that hasn't started on October 7th. It has started about a century ago when the Israeli-Palestinian conflict started. And those who thrive and prosper from this cycle are the extremists on both sides, Hamas and the Israeli government. They are both fundamental extremist organizations and regimes that are thriving by sacrificing their own people. For the Israeli government is the hostages, of course, and for Hamas, the people in Gaza. And at the same time, they're dehumanizing the other. And it's very frightening and it's very scary to live in a time like that, like this. But at the same time, in the last 2 years, I've been going through a spiritual and educational journey. And I learned that all conflicts end in the end. All conflict ends. It doesn't matter if it's 10,000s or 100,000s or millions of victims of life that are lost. All conflicts end in the end. And of course, the Palestinian-Israeli conflict will end. So with every day that goes by, we are getting closer to peace, because that's what history proves. And in order to break this trap, we are calling for it from October 7, not from 23, not from today. We are calling for international intervention. The international community must intervene with two strategies. One is incentive to support the Israeli-Palestinian civil society in ending the conflict and create a different reality. And the second strategy must be sanction against the extremists, sanctions against the warmongers. And this is very important for me talking to you in Sky News, because I believe that the British government hasn't done enough. The British government hasn't done enough, not in sanctioning and definitely not in incentive. So I'm calling all policymakers in the UK, we are ready to partner with you. The civil society in Palestine and Israel is ready and willing to partner with you to end the conflict. And this is what we are doing. And we'll succeed without your support, but it's just going to take longer and more innocent people will lose their life.
You say that you'd like to see the British government do more. One of the big actions of recent weeks was, of course, the recognition of Palestinian statehood. They did so alongside France, Canada, other European nations too. What's your reaction to that, and what impact will that have?
Yeah. So it was a very good first step to start and using diplomacy and not just war and tools of destruction, but it's still an empty statement. And it's not the first one coming from the British government. We must see action on the ground, much more sanction against extremist settlers, against IDF, high officers, against Israeli cabinet members, and incentive. The UK and the international community must support the civil society in Israel and Palestine. And there was a communique from the recent, or the one before, G7 leader meeting in 2024. And an amazing statement coming from the G7 leader that they will support the Israeli-Palestinian civil society to end the conflict and create a reality of peace. But it's a dead word, just a statement. And your prime minister said already a few times in public to the public that he will support with finance, with grants, the civil society in Israel and Palestine, and we still haven't seen anything. So it's time to, not just for words, it's time not just for prayers, it's time not just for empty statements, it's time to act. And it's already too late. It's already too late to my parents. It's already too late to thousands of Israelis, thousands of Palestinians, but it's not too late for another 14 million. There are 14 million people living in Israel, in Palestine, and in Gaza, and it's not too late for us. But if we'll wait forever, it might be too late for many, many more.